Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I'm really excited about today's discussion. We're going to be talking all about fintech business strategy. I really love tech innovation and what it can do for us in the future. Our guest today is Tristan Pelloux, calling from Spain, and he's reviewing everything fintech at fintechreview.net, which you can find in the show notes. I'm always excited to connect with entrepreneurs such as Tristan, and I welcome him to the show. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Christopher.
Yeah, so kind of talk about your story, your background, the story behind Fintech Review, how did it start, etc.
Yeah, sure. So I started Fintech Review almost 4 years ago now. Time flies. It was just before the pandemic, actually. It was early 2020. And my background is in corporate strategy and innovation in financial services. I worked for 6 years in London for a bank focused on innovation across personal finance and business finance. So I did this for a few years, and then I started Fintech Review and also started independent consulting to a range of businesses, including fintech businesses, on their business strategy and how to better help their customers. And I moved to Spain as well in the meantime. I quit London and the grey and the bad food, and now I'm in a much better place.
Yeah, really interesting. And so I love this idea. One thing was what have you, or why did you start it? What was the impetus? What caught your attention? Was there a need? Something
Yeah,
you were
sure.
passionate-
So, as part of my job was basically to connect the dots between various things happening in the industry. And I wanted to build a platform in order to kind of air my views on what I see going on in the industries, like co-innovation that are really solving people's problems. Also, the things that I see that are still not being fixed in finance. So I wanted to build my own platform in order to share my views with the world. And so that's where I started Fintech Review. I started interviews, writing articles. People come to the platform and write articles, and then also started a newsletter that now is I've written about 130 newsletters. So yeah, I was about getting other people's views and sharing my views, and then from there I also started this year I started teaching at the university, teaching fintech. So that's very much I wanted to connect the dots and share what I think is happening in the world.
Yeah, really interesting because you and I think alike. Because that's why I started this podcast, is kind of to share or to connect people like-minded, and then kind of share it and raise awareness and around different topics. It can be inspiring, and I love this idea of a platform. And sounds like you're doing it in different mediums. Blog, video, and how has it grown since then? How is it doing?
Yeah, it's doing fine. I think it will always be a niche, but an interesting niche for me, and people are quite engaged. And there are always topics to cover. So yeah, about 2,000 people read the blog every month, and then I have 200 people on the newsletter that goes out every week. Some people that I know personally now, so it's good. It's been growing all organically, and I like to keep it like this. But it's a very engaged community that I've built around Fintech Review, and that I like.
Yeah. In your community, is it Facebook community? Is it Discord? Is it WhatsApp, Telegram? What is it?
No, it's mostly LinkedIn, Twitter, and then people that actually reach out directly, exchanging ideas by email. So a bit old school, I guess. But no, I haven't created a dedicated channel, or because I didn't need to. Also, I didn't. There's so many already, so I felt like where I am now on social media channels I am now, I think it's enough to maintain the discussion rather than burden people with another Slack channel.
It's interesting because one thing I wanted to ask you is, about the scaling and growth. So you've used, what tools and tactics you've used. Sounds like you've used search engine and maybe most likely social media. It looks like podcasting now. How are you growing the your brand?
Yeah, exactly. I think I've used social media, so focusing on mostly Twitter, a bit of Facebook, and a lot of LinkedIn. And then going on podcasts, you talk about Fintech Review, and then SEO optimization has played quite a role. I've used these different ways to grow Fintech Review.
Yeah, I love that. And what about like ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Instagram ads, or is it just all organic?
No, I mean I've done a couple of tests, but then I realized actually it's better just to keep it organic, keep it consistent social media posting, consistent SEO, and I felt it was a better way rather than going into the circle of advertising and ads that have sometimes you have results, but then when you stop, what happens. So I decided that it wasn't going to be the way for me to develop the business.
Yeah, I love this. And then, I love this idea of ads and, viral short form marketing. That's another. How are you using AI? Are you using AI in a fintech review or?
Not so much, because the problem, I mean, if you take ChatGPT, that it would give you an answer, like a general answer, wouldn't take into account what is going on. And the problem is that it's very fast moving. So it would tell you, oh, I don't know what's happening right now in cryptocurrencies because my last update was X months ago. So it's very good for, let's say, greenfield topics. So, oh, what is this part of fintech? That's great. But it wouldn't help you to tell, okay, also it would connect the dots, but not as much as you would expect. So it's useful, especially for, I guess, for content writing, but I don't use it that much. I can see that some people are using it because you can see the way some articles are written. I'm like, oh, it's obvious that it's been written by ChatGPT. So it will definitely change content writing. If your job was professional blog writer, I think that it's going to be a tough time for you. But for now, I mean, I see it as being a useful productivity tool, but not much more than that for now.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned, if you got your majority of your income from like writing blogs or writing or, editing, now it's getting replaced by AI software. But, for individuals such as yourself, you're actually using the tool to grow your platform and your business. So it's actually, helping you, it's complementing you. So,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, it can be useful. So, for instance, one of the social media planning tool that I use now has an integrated AI, and they can rephrase your sentences, or they can add a bit of words. That can be useful because you save a bit of time and you rephrase whatever. It is useful. It is useful, but I think more generally, AI, it needs to be seen as an augmentation tool rather than a replacing tool. So if it's replacing entirely what you do, it means what you are doing is not really value added.
yeah,
If it's really value added, what you do, it's going to augment your productivity, and you're going to be much better at what you do. So, for instance, me, most of the time I do consulting and advisory. ChatGPT is not going to change. It's not going to replace me, because what I'm telling my clients, they could have known without me telling them. What they want is help and advice on structuring ideas and help on the execution and the follow-up. But business planning, before ChatGPT, you ask Google, hey, what is in a business plan? Oh, business plan has all these ideas. Great. Then go do it. And now with ChatGPT, you say, hey, give me a business plan of a business, doing e-commerce or whatever. Sure, it will give you. It's not going to help you with the execution. And it's just, so the reason why you would hire someone to help you with that, it's very different from just having the information. So it's definitely useful for productivity and augmenting your capabilities, but it's not going to solve your every problem that you might have as an individual or as a business.
Yeah, I love that. And I really love how you described it as kind of like a value add. And, basically those human creativity, human judgment, human intuition, these things cannot, at least for now, cannot be replicated by AI. And it's kind of like you use AI to improve the quality, and you use it to scale, like output in, 10x your content output, or coming up with ideas, outlines. Really interesting. So one thing I have a question is, I know, for a lot of content creators, influencers, they start out with a blog and kind of expanded. And as your fintech review, it sounds like it's multi-channel and it's growing. How are you automating things? How are you scaling things? Are you using software, people, AI? How are you using it to manage your time and scale?
I mean, the usual software, I guess, like for email marketing, definitely using a software for that in order to, for instance, write my newsletters a few days before and manage all my subscribers. That's definitely one of the first things I used. And then social media planning. So there are a bunch of tools in order for you to plan much in advance all the social media interactions, and then also to be able to post regularly, which is what their algorithms will reward you for, is that you post regularly and interact with other people's. So I think in terms of software, there are a few softwares, and obviously for like managing the blog, managing when the articles are released and the keywords and all that. So that's one way, and then sometimes using copywriter, especially around guest posts. So yeah, I think I use a mix of using external people and then automation tools. There are plenty in order to minimize. I mean, if I look back, because I started 4 years ago, I spend much less time now, but with the same output, because I'm using a range of tools. Because before I would spend a lot of time writing social media posts and posting them, and then now I automate all that and I plan everything much more in advance. So I guess as usual, it's a mix of technology, but also process. Now I have my processes in order to write my newsletters or plan my articles, so that I spend less time as well, because I know exactly what I need to do at what point, that I don't need to have to think about it too much. So I divided the time probably by 4 or 5 or 10 times, just with processes and tools.
Yeah, I love that. Which brings me to like the next kind of question is, you built this business and really around this idea of fintech and sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love this idea that you talked about automating and scaling a company and a business. And then, so the next question is, what kind of individuals are interested in, like, what topics? Is it Web3, blockchain, AI? Again, I hate using the word crypto because it's a magnet for criminals and frauds and scam. Although the technology is life changing, but it's just kind of attracted the wrong crowd. So, what kind of topics are people interested in?
I think they are, and I am interested in a wide range of topics. So I cover everything from, say, lots of talks about AI, and then cryptos, blockchain technologies are very interesting use cases, and then I generally also cover business strategy in the sense that for me, at the end of the day, technology is interesting, but what matters really is what you do with it. And then, so for me, what I'm interested at is what when businesses really focus on solving a problem, and then how they use the technologies is an interesting bit. But these days, obviously, there is less attention to cryptocurrencies because prices is low, so people are less excited about it. But blockchain, there are interesting applications. And then obviously AI, lots of discussions about it, even though at the end of the day, between, using ChatGPT, sure, but between that and actually having an AI bank or some fully automated financial institution, it's not going to happen. So we're still, like the Gartner hype cycle, we're still like very much in the hype with AI. And I've seen it with blockchain back in 2016 when people were like so excited, oh, it's going to change. And it's okay, like, let's calm down and let's look at, let's take a step back rather than having a solution that looks for a problem. Let's look at the problems, what you want to do, and technology, depending on the technology you need to solve this problem. And I think that's what it should be. And that's where I'm interested in companies that actually look at more, they focus on the problem, and sometimes they might use certain technologies. And in the end, these are the ones that actually win because they focus on solving the customer needs rather than having some shiny technologies that no one cares about.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you mentioned kind of this financial services, and the big hype was, fintech and blockchain, and Bitcoin was going to replace the financial system. And I personally don't think that's ever going to happen because the government and the central banks aren't going to allow that. But what they're starting to do is they're starting to bring blockchain into their existing infrastructure. So you're in Spain, I'm in United States, JP Morgan, and there's this spot Bitcoin ETF approval, this kind of adoption by Wall Street for the technology. So what innovation or use cases in financial services that you are really excited about?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that, when, as I was saying, I was teaching at the university, and when I was talking about cryptocurrencies, at the end of the day, when you talk finance business, and then you start talking economics because it's always kind of linked, and economics is politics. So it's not just about, yes, this is great, it's going to replace the system. Yeah, but you need to think about the people that don't want this to change and don't want to lose control over printing money. It doesn't make sense for any government to do that. So that's where I agree with you that it's not going to be like this anarchist view of replacing money with some digital monies that no one has control over. That's never going to happen. I think there are interesting use cases whenever there is no trust and there are plenty of manual intervention, paperwork. It means that there is a good use case. So trade finance, supply chain finance are use cases where you have tons of intermediaries, no one trusts each other. So if you have supply chain finance using blockchain technology or trade finance, same, or invoice finances as well, where you have lots of intermediaries and paperwork, these are good use cases. So whenever there are plenty of intermediaries and no trust, plenty of intermediaries mean everybody's taking a fee, and and it's very costly and it's inefficient. So these are things that, but no one has been able to crack it yet at scale. So, but it remains the most interesting things for me. Or for instance, mortgages. There can be a few where you have tons of people involved and you don't know why. Well, you know why. It's because people don't trust each other. So that's why you have so many intermediaries. Payments, it's not really a good use case because payments are quite secure and they're efficient. So why would you need to replace it? Not really. But it's easy, so that's why people look at payments. It's an easy use case. But like where the real value are the complex problems, and trade finance is a complex problems. It's between countries, customs, like many different banks that they don't talk even the same language, different legal systems. This is very hard, but you need a strong will to change this. You need like backing of like serious money in order to develop this. So that's where I think it's more interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. I love this conversation. It may have you have on a future episode because we could talk all about. It's just such a fantastic, interesting topic. How can people contact you, follow you, reach out to you, etc.?
So they can find me on LinkedIn. As I said, I'm quite active there. On Twitter as well, fintech underscore review. And then they can go on fintechreview.net and subscribe to the newsletter, where every week I will not rant and not blab, but I will talk about what's going on in fintech, and try to connect the dots and shed some lights on what's going on.
Yeah. And I love this conversation. We're going to have you back on future episodes, and all of Tristan's resources will be in the links and show notes. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Christopher.